Hey, Greg, what's up?
How are you?
Good,
Good to
very
see you,
good.
Brian.
You too. We haven't spoken since 2017. That's when we did our last interview 8 years ago. I was looking at it this morning.
Wow,
So,
that's a long time between drinks, huh?
yeah, yeah, time flies, you know.
Yeah.
So, before we get into the new album and stuff like that, and your past, first, I was just wondering why you use 8 gauge strings.
Sorry, what was that? I didn't
Why
catch
you
that.
your strings on your guitar? You
Oh,
use eight gauge.
oh, 8 gauge. Okay. Um, well, Strats are a finicky animal. I played Strats since '88, and I started out with nines on it, but I found that sonically eights just sound better
Right.
with my setup. Anyway, um, there's a lot of things you can do with eights. Certainly vibrato,
Mhm.
and you can bend them a lot easier. And I always believe that guitar playing is hard enough, so anything I can do to make it a little easier, I'll do. You know, but I don't. People say, well, it doesn't sound as heavy as a 10 gauge or whatever, but I mean, when you're going through a Marshall amp and you're at volume, I don't hear a difference at all. I mean, to
Right.
my ear. So
Back in the day, a person met you at Streets in New Rochelle, New York. Do you know who that was?
uh I met a lot of people.
This is a guy you were close to.
um that met me at streets. Oh, oh, okay, all right. You're talking about Jimi Bell?
There you go. He's
Yeah.
the one. He's the one that gave me that question
When? Oh, really?
yesterday. I asked him, I because I'm good friends with him. So I go, you got anything good I could ask him? He says, yeah, ask him about the 8 gauge.
Yeah, Jimmy's a sweetheart. He and I have gone back and forth about this all the time, but I mean constructively. He always said, why eights? And he pokes fun at me and all, but I know, I always kid myself about it too. I have no problem making fun of myself. Um, but we've talked about it, and I've had the same discussion with him, and I know that he uses a heavy gauge, and
Right,
he plays. Jimmy's an animal on the guitar, and he plays very physically.
right,
You
yeah,
know, and we've talked about that too, and some of that has actually taken a toll on him physically. So
wow,
I've said, well, maybe you would consider, going to a lighter string. But the problem is that Jimmy plays in a low key, plays in a lower tuning.
right,
So for him, it wouldn't work. Those strings would be too light for
right, yeah,
him. But for me, I'm in like a standard 440, 435, so they're fine for me. But yeah, he always kids me about that. But
yeah. Cool, cool. Tell me a little bit. Just a couple months ago, you were on his show, Beyond the Strings. How was that?
that was great. That was great. Ba- Basically, what we did was video conversations that we have all the time because we always talk about gear and about other guitar players that are out there that we both run across on Instagram and everything. He'll send me a clip of a guy saying, "Oh my God, look at this kid," whatever. But we talked about a lot of things in that show. It was great. The staff there at the cable station were really, really nice people and very well run. And Jimmy's actually a great interviewer. He's very interested in all aspects. That's one thing about him you'll find. He really is into researching everything
Right, yeah,
about different guitar styles, picking different techniques, amps. He's very analytical that way. It's why he's who he is.
definitely cool, definitely cool. He always brings up. I gave him his first interview ever.
To
Uh,
me,
no, on him, me to him.
oh,
I gave
yeah,
his first interview. He always brings it up every time I see him. It's
yeah.
very impressive and stuff like that. So like
Yeah.
in your early days, you know, when you were playing, you played the Chance. I looked at your ticket stub or whatever, a ticket from that show with Dio. What was that like?
Yeah, that was unreal. I mean, I actually met Ronnie Dio. Uh, it's a long story, but I'll try and shorten it. It was actually weird. The first time I actually met Yngwie in person, he
Uh,
was on support for Ronnie.
right.
The Johansson brothers left his band. Jens was playing keyboards for Ronnie,
Uh,
and so Yngwie got on the tour, was opening for them, and after Yngwie's set, we all went upstairs and were standing on the side of the stage, and Ronnie came through to get a towel
uh,
while the band was playing something, and he's a little guy, and
yeah.
he looked up at us, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, fellas."
Uh,
Like that, he shook my hand. He shook a few hands, and then he jumped back on. It was very quick, but getting back to your question, it was unbelievable. I mean, I had to like pinch myself to
uh,
say that I'm actually sharing a stage with Ronnie Dio, and I did it twice. I opened for him
wow.
twice. Yeah. So it was an amazing experience, and watching him sing, the whole place was just like in a train watching this guy. You don't see somebody with a voice like that very often, and to have him right in front of you in such
Uh,
an intimate theater, it was
right.
really incredible. And I remember how crowded it was. They were actually turning people away at the door. That
Right. Yeah.
place was absolutely packed to capacity. It was actually almost dangerous how many people were in there that night.
Wow.
Yeah.
You missed them times back then?
Yes, I do. That's another thing that Jimmy and I talked about. We talked about, and I'm not trying to date myself or anything, but I did play through the '80s. I was in my early 20s, mid 20s through the '80s. We had so many major rock clubs to play.
Right.
The L'Amours, and you're talking, several thousand people in those places when they were packed. And
Right.
this is like every weekend, and you had a multitude of places to play. And yes, I do miss those days tremendously because it's just not like that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It's really sad. I I remember how big Brooklyn L'Amour's dressing room was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Just the dressing room, not even the main club itself.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
So it was just a huge place, a huge scene, and into the '90s it was still okay, but
Mhm.
a lot of the theaters, including the Chance, have gone under, and it's depressing. I have no other word for it.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, most of them clubs you're talking about, I photographed in all them clubs, Lemoore East, the Chance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the Chance I photographed, Richie Scarlett and Ace Frehley and
Oh, sure.
a lot of bands. So
Yeah. The Frank Pallett, who owned the Chance at the time, was just a great, great person. And he really, really tried to make a difference in the music community. And he did, absolutely did. And what happened to him was just awful.
uh,
Um, Now, I know that I've seen some announcements that the Chance is going to open up again, but I saw some kind of a vaudeville act that's coming in there.
oh
I have
yeah,
no idea what these people are planning to do, but they had an established crowd in that place, and I think it would be a real sin if they ignored that and tried to, do something else with it. Other than what it was really being done with, having rock shows there, it was awesome.
yeah. From your early days to now, how much do you feel your guitar playing has grown?
Oh, it's grown a lot. I mean, I think if you listen to like my first records, even from like my EPs in '86 and the stuff I did with Silent Listener and Saintly Sinner and then Vandal, and I've recorded since early '80s.
Right.
And then even the Livesay records, it's changed a lot. I mean, I think I always try and improve. You know, I don't worry about anybody else. I know they're out there.
Right.
And if you go on Instagram, you'll say, all right, forget it. Why even bother? Because there's just amazing players out there, and a lot of these guys are really, they're young.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I just concentrate on the guy in the mirror.
Right. Yeah.
I look in the mirror and I say, are you better than you were 6 months ago?
Right. Yeah.
Are you working as hard as you should be? I worry about that,
Uh,
and I never feel that I should ever think that I'm good enough to satisfy myself,
right.
just the
Yeah.
people that are watching me. But I'll never be satisfied with myself. I'm my worst critic, and most really serious guitar players are their own worst critic.
Now, how's the club scene by you? Is it monopolized by cover bands?
um, that's a two-part question. The club scene around here, um, I would say, is not great.
Uh-huh.
And yes, right now the whole scene is dominated by tribute cover bands.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it like this in my life. And I've been around a long time. I
Hmm.
started out in a tribute band when I was young, an Ozzy band,
Hmm.
doing Randy Rhoads' albums with Ozzy when Randy was still alive.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how far back that goes. But I got out of that a long time ago, and it's just come full circle. But even then, we never had as many uh, cover tribute bands as there are now. It's just
Right.
insane, you know.
Yeah. Yep. Now recording, I notice a lot of bands now are just putting singles out instead of like a full album. And maybe when they get to the eighth single, then they'll put out an album on maybe colored vinyl or something, just so people would buy the colored vinyl. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I'm about to do that myself.
Uh,
I'm doing an EP. I'm going to drop one song, and then I'm going to wait and do. I have another three on the way. One is in the can. Two are going to be recorded, but I'm going to do that myself. One, it's financially to do an album is a lot of money. It
yeah.
is. I don't care where you go, unless you're really skilled at home and you can do it and do everything yourself.
Right.
It's expensive. It's
Mhm.
expensive to make a record, and God knows I've invested a lot of money in my band, over the years just to get music out.
Right.
I'm doing it now, but if I want to continue to do it, I have to,
Right.
because the record companies, if they do give me an advance, I don't even know how much it would be. Any decent studio, you're going to be paying a decent amount of money to go in there with a good engineer. So, you know, I just think that dropping a single here and there keeps you relevant,
Mhm.
but it's not requiring you to lay out a ton of money all at once,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? And also, people don't seem to buy full records anymore
Right. Yeah.
unless the record is huge.
Right.
You get a band. I talk about this band a lot. There's a band that my kids introduced me to. A band they're called Sleep Token. Unbelievable band, totally different genre than what I do, but their entire album is phenomenal. You get a band like that, their album is going to sell. But you get somebody like me or a lot of the other bands, we're not going to invest a ton of money in doing an entire album because people won't buy it.
Right. Yeah.
They'll do the selection of songs that they like, and that's it. So what you do is you try and write some really, really good songs,
Mhm.
and release those, and maybe do an EP or something like that. I think it's for financial reasons more than anything else. You know,
Yep.
that's why I'm doing it.
Mhm. Well, do you feel you need a label anymore?
um, that's also a good question. You know, I have several friends that are signed to probably the biggest label you could be on in metal right now.
Right.
Okay, and they have pretty much everybody. I'm not going to mention names, but
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure everybody can figure it out. And I know for a fact that they really don't do anything for you. You
Right.
know, you do an album for them. They'll talk about you for about 3 weeks. They'll drop it. They'll talk to you. They'll talk about you for a couple of weeks after that, and then they're right on to the next thing
Right.
because there's so many bands on that label, and they don't do it. They don't give you. There's no tour support. They don't book you. There's nothing. They do nothing. They stamp their name on it and they say, okay, here's an album on our label, blah, blah, blah. You'll get some press. You'll
Mhm.
get some, maybe you'll get reviews. I think they can help you that way.
Mhm.
you know. But other than that, I'm with a label right now, but it's a different type of label. This label is trying to go after the music industry a different way. They said that the Spotify playlists, they're all controlled by major labels. So
Right.
even if you put something out on Spotify, you just get completely swallowed up. Nobody hears it.
Right.
It's that's a really tough question. You have to be a super motivated guy to do everything on your own, though. I can't tell you that.
Right.
I've done that myself. My
Mhm.
last CD, I did everything myself. Distribution, selling it, all that kind of stuff, and it's hard,
Mhm.
you know.
Cool, cool. Do you get the same feeling, when you walk on stage as you did in the past?
Yeah, I do, and I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm not out there as much as I used to be, and it's killing me.
Uh,
Um, but I do get the same feeling. Yeah, I'm excited to play for people. I know when I go up there, I'm absolutely ready to play. I used to say that right before a gig. I would post on social media, Greg Livesay is ready to play. And I
cool.
was always, ready to go on and give it.
Right. And
I'm very serious about playing when I'm up there, you know. And I do get the same feeling, and I miss not being able to do it as much. And I don't know what the answer to that is right now.
right. Yeah. If you had to name five guitarists that are your favorites, or somebody coming up, who would that be?
Um, Okay, five guitars that are my favorite, personal favorite. Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. He was a god to me when I was young,
Uh,
without a doubt. He was one of the greatest players of all time, I think. Um, Certainly, Yngwie, huge. Um, I loved Al Di Meola. I loved Richie Blackmore.
right.
Um, you know, I love Eric Johnson.
Mhm.
There's so many guys I could list that I listened to. Sean Lane, an absolute monster. Up and coming right now, there's quite a few of them out there. There's one kid that I follow. He's not necessarily up and coming anymore because I think he's about to do something bigger than what he was doing. He's out in New Jersey. His name is Brandon Ellis,
Mhm.
and he played for a band called Black Dahlia Murder, but he just left them recently. But that kid plays beautifully. He's technically incredible, but he's so melodic in his playing and the way he structures his phrasing and everything. He's not just one of those guys who burns techniques.
Right.
He plays, you
Right.
know. He
Mhm.
has the speed, he has the techniques and the proficiency, but he says something with it. And I was just so blown away by his videos. He is a really phenomenal player. I think he's got a super bright future ahead of him.
Cool. Now let's get to the new album. You got a title yet for it?
I do not. I
Mhm.
don't have a title for it yet. Um, we just written and recorded vocals on when was it? Was it Monday? I guess Monday. We were up there at
Uh-huh.
Dexters Lab in Milford, Connecticut, and Ronnie Munroe has stepped in to do the vocals for the EP, and we're actually talking about doing some shows and things like that.
Cool.
So he's very excited about the material, and he's a phenomenal vocalist. I mean, Ronnie's list of credits is pretty incredible between Metal Church and Cave and Trans Siberian Orchestra, where he was a principal vocalist on tour with them. He's an incredible singer, and he came in and just completely blew me away. He really brought my songs to life.
Right.
So I'm very excited about what we're going to be putting out. I don't have a title for it yet, but I'm sure we're going to come up with something. But
Cool.
it's going to be an EP. That's what I'm going to do.
Right. And
Yeah.
you can see some of Ronnie's singing on your Facebook if people want to check it out.
Yes, I took a quick clip of him in the booth, and I have to tell you, that clip doesn't even do justice as to how powerful that man's voice is. The
Right.
power that he generates from himself. You know, I was talking to him. We were talking yesterday on the phone. He comes into the studio. He walks in. He's a regular guy. You
Mhm.
know, joking around and everything else. A lot of fun to be with. He's got great stories because he's been with everybody, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But when he goes in that booth, there's a switch that goes on and you can see it, and he's all business.
Right. Yeah.
And no direction. I didn't have to tell him anything. I asked him, I said, you know, he said to me, do you have lyrics for the songs? And I said, nope, here's the songs, they're completed. And he said, okay, I'll get right on it. Wrote all the lyrics, everything, and just came in and blew it out because he's a pro. And that's what I need.
How many songs will be on the CP?
Probably, I would say 4. That's all.
Uh-huh.
It's an EP, 4.
Right.
That's all. Yeah.
Cool. You expected download, album, vinyl, cassette?
It's going to be everything. It'll be a physical copy. It'll be downloaded. It'll be on all the platforms. But it's gonna go through this through Iron Gate,
right.
who I'm signed with at the moment. It's going to go through them. I want to see what they're going to do with it. They're very nice people. Holly Hale, who's out of Pasadena, California, is my contact with them. Mark Skoda is the president of the label. He's a very nice guy. He's in Nashville. They are working with a promoter, I believe, out of Missouri, to try and start getting their bands out there. So I'm excited about what they're offering, and we're going to see what happens. I give every label I've been with a chance with a record to see what they'll do. That's the way I work. You know, I'll do an album, I'll see what happens. If it doesn't, you know, if it doesn't go the way I like, I'll just say, okay, thank you. We've, you know, nice experience, and then I'll move on. So
what is the biggest highlight in your career?
I would probably opening for Steve Morse, opening for Ronnie James Dio, opening for George Lynch, you know, all Vinnie Moore with UFO, John Sykes. I opened for him twice. You know, Tommy Aldridge was playing in the band, Marco Mendoza. This is when Thin Lizzy came out.
Right. Yeah.
Came back out for a few years. All those, you know, people that I look up to that I got to actually be on stage with are probably the highlight of my life, aside from my kids being born.
Gotta include them.
Yeah, that was probably the ultimate highlight of my life, was having my kids. But other than that, definitely playing with those people. I mean, being on stage, never in my wildest imagination would I ever have thought that someday I would be on stage with Ronnie Dio. I mean, come on, man. You don't get any more major than that. I mean, at least in my life, you know.
And your kids going into music?
Oh, my daughter is an incredible drummer, actually. She was playing with the Connecticut Hurricanes for, I'd say about maybe 6 years or so. She just, I would say, retired because, you know, life is calling and she needs to, you know, focus on her career now, because it's a lot of time with the Hurricanes. But she's traveled with them. She's gone to championships and performed. She performed in stadiums that I can only wish to play in, right?
Wow. Yeah.
My son is a guitar player. He plays. He loves it. You know, he's into a totally different type of music than me. Some of the bands that he says, Dad, you got to check these guys out. And I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, the screaming and everything else. But he did introduce me to Sleep Token and some other great bands. So, you know, he's got good taste in music, loves guitar players, loves drummers, you know, so yes, they definitely are into music.
Cool. If a new band came to you and asked suggestions of do's and don'ts in the music business, what would you tell
them? The do's and don'ts, well, the do's are, do surround yourself with solid people. That is a must, because I've said this a million times in many interviews. For me, the hardest thing, we all know the music business is tough. Okay. That's like knowing that, you know, if you jump in a swimming pool, you're going to get wet. It's a given.
Right.
But keeping your band together, and God knows the personnel changes I've had, I just went through one, but, you know, keeping your band together and getting good people in the band, solid, reliable people, is the toughest thing that you're going to find. And so you want to try and make sure that you know who you've got.
Right.
And, try and get the best people you can. I know it's difficult. You got to weed through a few people, but they're out there. You just got to find them. That's one. The don'ts, I would say, don't ever give up.
Uh-huh. What's your feeling about giving out autographs? And were your kids near you anytime that somebody asked for your autograph and like they looked at you or anything like that?
Well, I mean, I remember the first time we played. I've had people ask me to sign stuff, and I remember when they were asking me to do that, I felt very self-conscious about it and very weird about it. Like, why do you want me to sign anything? I'm nobody, why, that's the way I've always kind of looked at it. I've gotten a little better at it, but when somebody says, "Oh, can you sign something?"
Right.
I gladly do it for them. So a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, could you take a picture with me?" And yeah, my kids have been there to see that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they just kind of smile, but for me, because it's me, I
Right.
feel, I'm happy to do it, but I always feel a little funny about it.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm some gigantic, like an Eddie Van Halen or somebody.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm more than have somebody wants to take a picture. I'm glad to do it. Somebody wants me to sign an album. I've signed jackets, guitars, whatever. I've done that.
Cool.
So it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
But it's also a little strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During your whole career, did you collect anything?
You mean money wise?
Baseball cards, records, anything?
Oh, as a kid. Oh, did I collect anything? Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, baseball cards were in. So my brother and we did the Topps baseball cards. I don't know if you remember when you used to flip each other. You'd have your deck of cards and you'd flip.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I lost some good cards to some.
Yeah, I bet you.
Yeah, my day it was Tom Seaver and Willie Mays and those people. But we used to do stuff like that. But I was, as a kid, I was a Boy Scout.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in a very good family. I was a very conservative family. I had a great mother and father. I had a good upbringing. I have no complaints about anything at all. My parents were great to us, and they gave us a good life. And I've tried to do that for my kids too. So yeah, I mean, I was a well-rounded kid, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. Are you religious?
I believe in God.
Uh-huh.
I'm a Catholic. I went to all Catholic school when I was in grammar school and high school. It was all boys, kind of a bummer. I saw my last girl when I graduated 6th grade, and I didn't see my next girl until I was a freshman in college.
Uh-huh.
So that's a long stretch. Yeah. So as far as asking women out and stuff like that, I was a little behind the 8 ball. I was very quiet with girls. I really wasn't that great with them, because I didn't have a lot of experience when I was growing up.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, but I remember that being part of my youth. The and just music in general was just a huge part of my life. All I wanted to do was play the guitar. That's all I wanted to ever do.
You have anything else coming up you like to talk about?
We're going to be going back into the studio probably after June.
Uh-huh.
The studio that we're at, actually, Hatebreed has booked it until June. So they're in there. They got the place locked up. So we're going to go in after that and record these other 2 songs and get those down. And we're going to drop one that we did the other day. I'm actually cutting solos here now in my house.
Uh-huh.
And we'll release that. And then the EP will come out probably later in the year. Not probably, it's going to come out later in the year. So, and I'm psyched because Ronny Munroe will be on it. And I'm really thrilled at the way it's coming out. And I think people are going to be blown away by what it sounds like. So.
Definitely. So, Greg, congratulations on the new EP coming up very soon, and I wish you the best. Would you like to say anything to the fans out there?
Um, I appreciate the support. I wish you all the best, and we'll see you soon with new Livesay. And thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Greg, man.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Take care, Brian.
Bye bye.